Hi, everybody. This is Andrew Marshall with United Fresh Start Foundation. Today, I'm here with Lindsay Aguilar from the Tucson Unified School District in Arizona. This is a fantastic school district that's really doing some great work to increase children's access to a wide variety of fresh fruits and vegetables, both prior to the COVID-19 pandemic and even continuing on to this day. Lindsay, thank you so much for joining us. Before we kind of share a little bit about what you're doing with fresh fruits and vegetables, can you share with our audience a little bit about your school district, how many students you're feeding, what type of meals you're serving, and the like?
Sure. Yeah. Tucson Unified, we have 88 schools in our district with about 44,000 students. Our district covers 225 square miles. So since the school closure, we have transitioned to our grab and go meal operation on bus routes. We started off with over 100 bus stops. We're currently, since this school year, at about 67 bus stops, Monday through Friday, providing breakfast and lunch to families in our community. We are also doing an alternative weekly pickup of 7 days worth of meals for families that are unable to get to the bus stops during the school days. So we're doing those in the late afternoon, evening hours. So we're currently doing with our buses, weekly pickups, the limited on-site meals that we have some at-risk students on our campus. Our district is still under remote learning right now. We haven't opened up to hybrid yet. We're doing anywhere from 6,000 to 8,000 meals a day, kind of depending on what we have going on with the pickups and whatnot.
And so how does that number compare with a typical school year? Because, obviously reports are hearing a variety of, participation down, but also if you can share, what fresh fruits and vegetables are now being included with your COVID-19 meal distributions, and then maybe what the meal program looked like before.
Sure. Yeah, so currently we're at about 20% of our typical meal participation. For us, on a typical school year, we serve about 35,000 meals a day. So right now with our, 6 to 8,000, that's been pretty consistent since the school closure. So we're definitely down quite significantly as far as the number of meals that we're serving every day. We're just continuing to try to make our meals as accessible to our families and community as we can. But the pandemic has definitely proven to create some challenges for the number of meals that we're able to serve. As far as fresh produce, we currently have 9 of our schools that participate in the fresh fruit and vegetable program. So we have been able to incorporate a variety of fresh produce into our bus meals as well as our weekly pickups. So for example, this week we did produce boxes that had star fruit, kiwi berries, asparagus, some tangerines, a nice variety of a lot of different fruits and vegetables that our community, a lot of our families have never had before. It's been very well received to get a huge box with a variety of produce, and we also incorporated that in the spring. We've also, during the spring and summer, we were providing fresh oranges and apples in our grab and go meal format. So we've definitely tried to incorporate, what we can. We're certainly under, some financial budget impacts, as you can imagine, with our meal participation drops that we've seen. So it's been a challenge, but we also incorporate a lot of our school garden produce into our current operation. We have a very active and robust farm to school program in our district. So our farm to school specialist, during the closure in summer months and continuing into this school year, is still very active with harvesting our school gardens. So during the closure, for example, we incorporated over about 100 pounds of variety of squashes into our grab and go meals, as well as some grapes that one of our high school greenhouses had. So we're continuing to, any fresh produce that we can incorporate and provide to our community, we are definitely doing so.
That's fantastic. I mean, one of the ways that we first connected was from all the great stories that we heard about Manzo Elementary and the greenhouse that you have going on there, and it was also great to learn about how that's extended really throughout the years, because you have programs that are geared towards your high school students as well. Obviously, with the current situation and social distancing, I'm sure that challenges things a little bit. But the fact that you're still able to utilize some of the produce that's grown in-house, if you will, or at your schools is fantastic. And I would think that when the students know that the produce is something that either they had a part in or that it's from their school, there's a little bit more acceptance on there. Would you say that that's accurate?
Absolutely. We've seen, when a student harvests collard greens from a garden and actually is able to eat it, right from the garden, and say that they like it. I mean, that's definitely something that wouldn't happen if we were to serve that on our menu per se. So, the research has shown it over and over again. We know that if students are involved in learning about where their food comes from and being able to have a role in growing their own food, they are definitely more prone to eat it and be a lot more open to it. So that is something with our food literacy program that we are really active in trying to teach kids about where food comes from and teaching them about agriculture and the farming community, incorporating farms as guest speakers into our programs and highlighting our local farmers so that we have a ecology and sustainability program that we've created with a pipeline program of Monzo, as you mentioned, and then one of our middle schools and then one of our high schools. So we've had students come out of that program and actually go into agricultural careers post K-12. So it's definitely something that our district and our department is committed to, and it's always rewarding and exciting to see those benefits and reactions to kids that can consume and appreciate food that they've grown.
Absolutely. And it's good that that's something that the food service department is involved in, right, from Tucson Unified, as opposed to maybe either a science department or somebody else. But the fact that as the food service division, you guys are so intimately involved with the farm to school, with the other activities around getting kids to understand where their food comes from is fantastic. Talking about the options that are available during a typical school year versus what's available now. Obviously, participation plays into that, budgets play into that. But you're a school district that has really prioritized fresh produce, prioritized giving kids access to fruits and vegetables. Are you still able to, for the most part, maintain a number of those nutrition standards that went into place that are requiring a variety of fruits and vegetables be served? Or how is that going now that you guys are doing this distance learning approach and it's not just kids coming into the cafeteria to pick and choose anymore?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely had an effect on our the types of menus that we're offering. When we had to switch, in a week's notice with the closure to distributing meals on buses versus out of our kitchens, it definitely factored into the types of options that we could provide. So, and with extra safety measures that we were taking, which was very, common across the country as far as these grab and go meals. For sure in the spring and summer, all of the items that we were serving were prepackaged items, again, just for some, extra safety measures, during the pandemic, so we didn't have staff handling food. We have since transitioned to assembling a lot of our food for the meal bags. So, for example, the whole grain chicken patty on a whole grain bun, we're assembling that into the meal bags. The meal bags are all frozen food items that families take home to heat up themselves, since we're doing multiple meals at one time. So there were a lot of factors that played into the types of menus that we had to create based on the types of foods that we needed for this distribution, which was very different from our staff being able to cook things from scratch in their kitchens, to we have to pack things in bags and coolers and get it on a bus, and the time for that process. So the longer this has gone on, we've been able to incorporate more variety into our menus. And we've gotten, very creative, I will say, as far as, how can we incorporate other types, of frozen vegetables and different things. The fresh produce is definitely something that we are, it's a top priority for us, although, like I said, our budget impact of this has been a factor in the amount of fresh produce that we're able to currently utilize. It's also a challenge, sometimes again with just the distribution factor of what we're doing. But there are a lot of options that work for the grab and go meals in the fresh produce, industry. So, the half cup pre-portion types of things, or just simple, oranges, like I mentioned, were something we were able to easily incorporate, apples, those types of things. So it's been a challenge and a different approach than our typical menus, where we really do have a lot more flexibility and variety than what we're doing right now. But things like the fresh fruit and vegetable program give us that opportunity to continue with that fresh produce, and then tying in our school gardens is something that has given us that ability as well to offer some different things into our current operation.
Well, thanks so much, Lindsay. We really appreciate your time today for giving us kind of a snapshot into what's going on in Tucson. You guys are really doing fantastic work there to continue to put fresh produce in front of these kids, show them where it comes from, and give them a story about why it's important to choose those healthy or fresh items. So thank you for what you and your team are doing, as we know this is a difficult time and we're all going to get through it together. So thank you again.
Thank you so much for having me.